Hello.
Hi,
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy you're here.
Yeah, and to see you. We've talked on Zoom a few times,
Yes,
but it's not the same.
it's not the same, but it's pretty good too.
It's good.
Yeah.
It helps. Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
So there are a few things I would like to talk about.
Yeah.
I've told you about this practice I have of teaching language through movement,
Yes,
which I developed a long time ago when I was studying at Bennington.
yeah.
So it was in 1998.
Mm-hmm.
And when they asked me to do this course, the cross-disciplinary between language and improvisation, of course, I thought about logomotion right away,
Mm-hmm.
and contact improvisation,
Mm-hmm.
both because of also the playfulness, because I thought that sometimes there's you feel a little bit intimidated to learn a language, like you're a little scared to learn a language, or you think, oh, I'm not good, and in my mind, I thought that if we were playful in the body,
Yeah,
we would relax,
yeah,
and the tongue would relax,
yeah,
and maybe it would be easier to go into language.
yeah.
So so I have a few questions about this in relationship to logomotion, because there's logomotion and there's news animation,
Yeah,
and for me they're different.
yeah. Let's say news animation relates to thoughts about the world, to thoughts about how people organize themselves, to thoughts about history or the moment.
Yes.
Not,
like this.
yeah, you should take, not
I
so
put it
much in scholarly ways, but feelings that one has. Logomotion is about anything.
Yes. Okay.
So, for instance, I worked with a group for 6 years. We were Simone, Forti and troupe. And we were traveling to different places and taking a week or 2 weeks to get to know the place and to have physical experience in it, hiking or whatever, and also to read about the history, the indigenous history, the more recent political history, the geological history, because one of us was a geologist. And then we would talk about that. So it's a similar process, but logomotion, the topic is open.
Right. But otherwise it's the same principle?
It's the same principle. And when I say the topic is open, you know ahead of time what the field is that you're going to stay within.
Right.
And then you're working from stream of consciousness, but it's within that field.
And is logomotion, you use it, you teach it, it's also a workshop?
Yes. Yes, I was going to do a 10 sessions workshop at the Hammer in their beautiful new space with a wooden floor. And we did one session and it was beautiful, it was good. And then the lockdown happened. That
Yes.
was that.
But this is, would you say that logomotion is something you teach, but news animation is more performance related?
Yes, I think so. I have taught logomotion at UCLA in the advanced improvisation class.
Right.
But in that context, we also did some news animation, but not more than 1 or 2 sessions.
Yes.
I was just watching someone recently, someone I didn't know, a stranger, who I was watching him talk to in conversation with someone. And he was moving so much and in such an interesting, revealing way. You got the feeling that he was saying these things, but he was giving a lot of context of the feeling and of the breadth of the reference. And he was doing so much communication with his body.
And what were they talking about?
I wasn't close enough.
Ah, see, something you could see. Yes. Yeah. Talking also with the hands?
Also the body, the arms, you know, making things stop and...
And that was logomotion?
That was logomotion.
Yeah.
Logo and motion.
Yes. How one image can bring a movement, or how a movement can bring another image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was conveying something that was complex. So he was using everything he had.
And also you couldn't hear. You couldn't hear if he was
No.
in what language he was speaking.
Yeah.
Or no. And there's this idea of juxtaposition in logomotion.
Juxtaposition of language to movement, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's more a compositional device of saying. I like in life to have those juxtapositions, not just of movement to language, but of this concern and that concern, and this is more complex, and then this is just a little stone that jumps on the water. It interests me more aesthetically when something stays in one timbre. It wraps it up and ties it up, and
so that's when the juxtaposition comes in to give a little ripple.
Well, it does do that. Maybe that's not why it comes in.
Okay.
I think things are in juxtaposition. Of course, things are. When I say that, I'm just saying that you can look at things that way.
Yes.
Look at 2 things at once that are different. And then there's whatever relationship they happen to have. There was an exhibit of Pierre Huyghe.
Yes.
Here in Los Angeles. And I liked it very much. And the juxtapositions of the different images that he created gave such an open place for life.
An open place also for the viewer to look at?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you, so in your performance of logomotion or news animation, you often, when juxtaposition comes in, you also come back to some images.
Yes. Yes.
And they kind of play from one Is writing very important into that?
Yes. I always, if I know I'm going to do a either a logomotion or a news animation, I spend 20 minutes writing, and that gives me a few ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know that I can start with one of those ideas, because starting, it's always frightening.
Yes.
I might not use one of those ideas, but I have something that I can start with.
So it's something you can fall back on to if you need to?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I tend to have certain riffs, let's say, certain things that I like to juxtapose to bring attention to something about them. And that for a period of maybe 6 months, every time I do a news animation, I find myself pulling up that.
Mm. And you've done logomotion or news animation in different languages?
Well, I've done some in French, I've done some in Italian. And when I was in Venezuela, it's the only time I worked with a translator.
Okay.
And she was very good, because she would musically play with me.
Yes. Mm.
Yeah.
And when you teach in French or Italian, do you feel it's different for you in your body?
Good question. I'm not aware of it, but I would think so. The people who work here in this in this business, in this Kingsley Manor, are almost all from the Philippines.
Okay.
And they're very free to talk to each other. They really talk to each other. They laugh, they argue, and I love the sound of the language. For one thing, it has many sounds that are not in any language I know. So they'd be new sounds to learn how to make. And it's a very percussive, it's sharp.
Are they teaching you some words?
No.
No. And you grew up learning 2 languages. Did you grow up with Italian or?
Yes, I did.
You did?
At the table we spoke Italian.
Italian.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you have this language memory in your body, whether it's in Italian or in English.
I think I can learn languages pretty easily.
Pretty easily, yeah.
Yeah.
And would you say that, because I have different languages resonate differently in the body.
I think so, yeah.
Because I feel when if I'm moving and speaking in English, I move differently than if I do it in French.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so how would you, if I would ask you to teach me a few words of Italian through logomotion?
Now we're getting to what you're working on. Speak to you a few words of Italian in locomotion.
In logomotion. Like how would you?
Well, ho fame. Doing this with these muscles, ho fame.
Ho fame.
Ho fame.
Ho fame. Ho fame. Ho fame. Do you have another one?
Well, let's see. Chiudi la porta. what did I do? I did this.
Yeah.
Chiudi la porta.
Chiudi la porta. Chiudi la porta. Chiudi. O farmi. O farmi. Chiudi la porta. O farmi. Because when I teach, so in France I teach English, and here I used to teach French. I tend to, that's when I realized that also depending what I'm trying to teach, for example, for a French person, the H is very hard, like hat, house. So that also goes like hat, house. And sometimes I would feel the air through the fingers, hat, house. Because a French person would say at, house. We don't have this hat, hat, house, hat. So it also comes from here, hat, house. And I feel like from there we move differently. And I'm asking them not to translate.
To translate?
Not to translate.
Not to translate.
No. So when I teach English, for the duration of the workshop, we only speak English. So if they don't know any English, they repeat everything I do. Because if I move, so here again, I'm going to go with my shoulder blade. I feel my shoulder blade, and I'm going to say shoulder blade, shoulder blade, shoulder, shoulder. And everybody is repeating that word in the room. And it gets like bigger and bigger. And that's where also the playfulness comes in. We play with the word shoulder blades, but we also sense what the shoulder blade feels like. But I think that as dancers, we are very much connected to the body.
Yeah.
So starting with body parts is helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in Hungary, and I wanted to know how to say thank you. And it's köszönöm. And I learned it, the way I was able to remember it was k is way back, and then s.
Köszönöm.
Köszönöm.
Köszönöm. So for you, he had the visual, like.
Yes.
It's
it
like
was visual.
Köszönöm. Köszönöm. Did you learn how to say thank you in many languages?
No.
No?
Just the languages I speak: Italian, French, English, and some Spanish.
Yeah.
But I speak some German.
You do?
And I think that's because when I was little, we had a German woman taking care of my sister and myself. And I think I could learn German very quickly. And also, one of my aunts, one sister of my mother's, was married to a German, and they basically spoke German in their house. And I would spend time with them, and I think I could learn German very quickly.
And they were living here in the States or in Europe?
They came like we did in '39.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were all in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
So this is about like your childhood language memory. And so going back to Logomotion, what's when you teach it?
When I teach it?
When you teach it, what's important for the students to learn?
First, to relax. And so I have them all at the same time work with a partner and take turns telling about childhood memories.
Yeah, so we're going back to childhood memory.
Yeah. And that's interesting because it just occurs to me now, because the memory is still maybe not as verbalized. Some become very verbalized, the key memories, but if you take 20 minutes walking around with a partner and everyone around you is doing the same thing, so they're focused and you're not shy. After a while, you start having memories that you haven't remembered in a long time. Or maybe your partner's memory brings back a memory you didn't even know you had.
So you play back and forth
Yeah.
between the memories.
Yeah.
While walking?
I tell people they have to change their level and they have to change their place in space. So they won't just start conversation mode.
Right.
Some of them are very used to workshops and similar things, and they get moving quite a bit. Some in pretty stereotypic ways, but some really finding some fresh movement. And others, I'm satisfied that they are moving around the space a little bit. And then to not be miming, but that's another art.
Yes. So how do you go about it? To not mime, not to go into miming?
Yeah, well, we talk about it afterwards. Maybe we talk about that miming is a symbol for something, and I demonstrate.
Yeah, so you do a lot with them. You're active.
Yeah, well, I used to.
You used to.
Yeah.
But so now, like you said before, before lockdown, you were going to teach this 10-week workshop?
Yes.
So now that movement is not so easy, do you talk to them? You talk through them?
Well, I haven't been teaching.
Okay.
I did teach one afternoon online recently, and it was hard. For one thing, there's not the comradeship,
Yes.
the camaraderie.
Yeah. Yes, because when you used to teach, you used to be moving all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. And being in the moment with the students.
Yes.
And
I've had the idea that I got into logomotion because teaching, I was moving. And if I would move to demonstrate something, I would be talking too.
Right.
Giving more information, or saying, look at this part of it. And so it was very natural to move from that as the topic to other topics.
It's a little bit, when you're teaching like this, it's a little bit almost like you're performing with the students.
Yeah.
And it's like taking them on a journey or something.
In the writing, I've used the books of Natalie Goldberg.
Writing down
writing
bones.
down the bones, or wild mind. And to not be judging your writing while you're writing it. And also, I find that now I don't keep my hand moving. When I was using it before, like for my 20-minute preparation, I used to write keeping my hand moving for 20 minutes. But with the students, I still do that sometimes because you don't have time to figure out what the next idea should be. Whatever comes through, you're relieved that there's something and you write that.
Yes. So that's also to relax, in a way, to relax the mind, to relax, to let it flow.
Also, yes, also. But that also brings us back to the juxtapositions.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think that we do think in juxtapositions. Like, I've really been studying your scarf. And that's very much part of my thinking and experience as I'm talking about logomotion.
So juxtaposing two different things that are not necessarily related.
That's right.
And you find this, and then you try to find a balance or something that relates or that brings them together, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily, but I know that on some level something will bring them together. And not everything has to be brought together.
Yeah. So you were saying you were studying the scarf.
Yeah.
Yes. So talking about the two of us looking at each other and then your eyes going onto my scarf.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's juxtaposition.
Yes.
But not necessarily bringing in the color of the scarf into the discussion.
It could.
It could.
I like to, if I say something and I realize I could continue to complete that thought, which a teacher would expect me to do. But I realize that you already know what the whole thought is. So I like to just drop it and go to the next thing. Because it gives a little thing of energy. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's go on to the scarf. What can we say about the scarf?
It's a lovely color and it's very soft, and somebody knitted it.
Yeah, exactly. It's my grandmother.
My goodness.
Who knitted it. And it's, I used to ask her to knit one scarf every year.
Yes.
To have a collection, because I knew at some point she would stop knitting.
Yeah.
And that's not the last one she made, but it's the last one she made so thin. And because you say you were studying, because there's a whole pattern going on, which I don't know how you would say in English, but it's in French it's point de riz, so it's like a rice stitching.
Oh.
And I don't know, yeah, and it's soft and it's warm.
So it's wonderful that there's a story.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's, so if we go on, like, this reminds me, I mean, this I wear it because my grandmother made it, but when I was showing you the picture, I told you, you could be our grandmother in a way.
Yes.
You know, has to do with the sense of extended family.
Yeah.
In which we travel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you, Simone.
You're very welcome.
Now I feel the sun coming to us.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. It's always so nice to talk to you.
Yeah.
It's great.
And it's wonderful that you're doing that work.
Mm.
I think it brings good in the world.
It brings good to the world, yes, well.
Yeah.
Mm.